Good morning, students. I am Aprajita Singh from Sanskar Global School. Today we will be studying Chapter 4 of Electoral Politics. The topics that we have to study in this chapter are: why do we need elections, what makes an elections democratic, the system of election that we follow in India, and how elections are held democratically in India, and what are the challenges to free and fair elections. First, let us know what is election. Election is actually a mechanism through which people choose their representatives at regular intervals, and people can change their representatives if these representatives are not working for the people in the next elections. Now, what are the needs of the elections? Elections are actually the most democratic way through which people choose their representatives. Through elections, people can even choose who will make laws for them. People can choose who will form the government and take major decisions for the people. Through elections, people choose the party whose policies guide the government. Elections ensure that the representatives whom people have chosen work for the people. If they will not work for the people, then in the next elections, people will choose some other representative for them. So, because of all these reasons, elections are necessary. Because of all these reasons, we need elections. Now, next topic is what actually makes an elections democratic. Following conditions are necessary for making an election democratic. Everyone should be allowed to vote, and the value of vote should be equal for everyone. There should be no discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, gender, race, region. Different parties and candidates should be allowed to contest elections. Actually, this allowance of contesting elections will offer people real choices to choose their representatives. Elections should be held at regular intervals. In India, Lok Sabha elections are held after every 5 years. Even state assembly elections are held after 5 years. So it is necessary that elections are held regularly. And the candidate who is getting majority of votes should be elected. It should not happen that some candidate is getting majority of votes but some other candidate is forming the government or some other party is forming the government. So whosoever gets the majority of vote should form the government. Elections should be conducted in a free and fair manner. There should be no use of muscle power, no use of bribe in elections. It should be conducted in a free and honest manner. All these points are necessary for conducting elections in a democratic way. Now, what is the system of elections that we follow in India? In India, the Lok Sabha elections and the state assembly elections are held after every 5 years. After 5 years, the terms of the representatives come to an end and both Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha dissolves. So elections are held in all the constituencies at the same time. When elections are held in all the constituencies at the same time, then such kind of elections are called general elections. But if elections are held in one constituency to fill the vacancy that has been caused by the death or the resignation of a member, then that elections are called by-elections. So in India we have two types of elections: by-elections and general elections. Now, how the whole process of election is followed in India? What is the process that we follow for elections in India? First step that we do is we divide the country into different units. Those units are called electoral constituencies. These units are divided on the basis of the population. The units are divided in such a way that each constituent unit has approximately same population. For both Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha, the constituencies are divided according to the proportion of the population. In India, in Lok Sabha, we have 543 seats. That means For Lok Sabha, the whole India is divided into 543 constituencies. Similarly, each state for state assembly elections are divided into a number of constituent units according to the population, so that each constituent unit, even in a state, has approximately same population. Within each parliamentary constituency, there are several state assembly constituencies. Even for the local government, that is panchayat and municipal election, the villages and towns are divided into several units. These units are called wards. If we take the example of UP, the UP for state assembly is divided into 403 constituencies. So this first step that we follow for elections in India is dividing the country into electoral constituencies. Second step is we reserve constituencies in India for the weaker sections. Our constitution makers were actually worried that if we don't give any reservation to the weaker section of the society, then they may not have the chance to get elected. They will be able to participate in elections, but because of lack of resources, they may never be able to win the elections. So they came up with a system of reserved constituencies reserved constituencies for the weaker section. In Lok Sabha, 84 seats are reserved for SC, 47 seats are reserved for ST. This reservation of seats for the weaker section is actually done according to the proportion of their population in the total population of the country. In local bodies and local government, besides SC and ST, seats are reserved for OBC and women. In local bodies, 1/3 seats are reserved for women. So, this reserved constituency is basically for providing equality to the weaker section of the society. After dividing the country into different constituencies and reserving seats, next step in election is preparing voter list. Every citizen of India who is above 18 years has the right to vote. There will be no discrimination on the basis of religion, gender, race, region, or caste. So this list of people who will vote is called the electoral roll, and officially it is called electoral roll, and commonly we call it voter list. This list in India is revised after every 5 years. So within 5 years, whoever has achieved the age of 18 years can register themselves in this voter list or electoral roll. Those people who have moved out of a constituency or those who are dead, their names are deleted from the electoral roll of that constituency. The Election Commission of India has came up with a new system of election photo identity card, commonly known as voter ID. It is compulsory to have this card for voting. The voters list or the electoral roll that is prepared constituency wise. A person can vote only in that constituency in which his name is there. He cannot vote in any other constituency in which his name is not there. Those citizens who have been declared by the law as unstable and those who have been barred due to corrupt practices or illegal practices, they cannot vote in elections. They cannot become the voter in India. After preparing the voter list, the next step in elections is nomination of the candidates. Any person who is a citizen of India and who can be a voter in India and is above 25 years of age can become a candidate in elections. There are restrictions on criminals for contesting elections, but these restrictions apply only in very extreme cases. Political parties nominate their candidates who get the party ticket and symbol, and this nomination of candidates is called getting the party ticket. Every person who wishes to contest an election has to file a nomination form with the Election Commission of India and has to submit some amount of money as security deposit. The Supreme Court of India has made it compulsory for every candidate who is contesting an election to make a legal declaration giving full details of serious criminal cases that is pending against him, details of the assets and liabilities that he is having and that his family is having, and the educational qualifications of the candidate. All these three is compulsory for every candidate to file in their nomination form, to file with their nomination form. It has been made compulsory by the Supreme Court of India. After the nomination of the candidates, the election campaign starts. During election campaign, different political parties tell about their policies. They try to attract public attention on some big issues and try to get vote on the basis of those issues. Election campaign actually help people to decide which party will make a better government, or which candidate will make a better government whose policies are good. These election campaigns help people to decide all these things. Election campaigns in India take place for a period of 2 weeks. It takes place between announcement of the final list of the candidates and the date of polling. During this period, the candidates contact with the voters. The leaders of different political parties address election meetings. Political parties try to attract supporters, try to mobilize their supporters. Even during elections, different political parties give different slogans that will help them to get vote from the people. Here are certain slogans which have been given by different political parties during election campaign, like Garibi Hatao by Congress, Save Democracy, Protect the Self-Respect of Telugus, etc. These were the slogans that were given during elections by different political parties. There are certain laws that has been made by India for political parties and the candidates that they have to follow during elections or during election campaign. First thing is, they cannot bribe or threaten voters. Second one, they cannot appeal to the voters to vote for them on the basis of the caste or religion. During election campaign, the political parties or the candidates cannot use government resources. Every political party cannot spend more than 25 lakh in a constituency for Lok Sabha election and 10 lakh in a constituency for state assembly elections. So these are the election laws that every party or every candidate has to follow during election campaign. Besides these election campaign, a model code of conduct has been prepared by the Election Commission of India for different political parties and candidates. First one is, no political party or candidate can use a place of worship for the election purpose, for holding election meetings or for election propaganda. Even the use of government vehicles, aircrafts and government officials is banned. Once elections are announced, the ministers shall not lay foundation stones for any projects, take any big policy decisions, or make any promises of providing public facilities. So these are the model code of conduct for election campaign which has been made by the Election Commission of India, and this model code of conduct has to be followed by every party and the candidate. Once the country is divided into different constituencies, seats are reserved for weaker section, voter list is prepared and nomination of candidates is done, then The next step that comes in election is the polling. Polling is actually the day when the voters go out and elect their representatives, vote for their representatives. This polling day is actually called the election day. Voters can go to the nearby polling booth. These polling booths are usually situated in a local school or a government office. Once the voters go inside the polling booth, the election official Once the voter goes inside the polling booth, the election officer identify her with the help of her voter list, puts a mark of ink on the finger and allow that person to cast vote. An agent of each candidate is allowed to sit in the polling booth so to ensure that the voting takes place in a fair way. The agents are present so that they can check no booth capturing takes place. Earlier in India, ballot paper were used for voting. Ballot paper is actually a sheet of paper containing the name of the candidates who are contesting election along with their party name and the symbols. So the voters used to put a stamp in front of the name of the candidate whom they are wishing to vote. But nowadays, electoral voting machines (EVMs) are used to record votes. Once polling is completed, the EVMs are sealed and taken to a secure place. After few days, a date that has been decided by the Election Commission of India, the EVMs are opened and votes are counted. Even while counting votes, the agents of the candidates are present to ensure that counting is done in a proper way. Once the counting is done, the candidate who gets the highest number of votes is declared as elected from that constituency. This counting is done constituency wise. So this was the last step in the process of elections that we follow in India: polling and the declaration of results. After declaration of results, the process of election comes to an end. Now next topic is how elections are held democratically in India. For conducting free and fair elections in India, we have following things. First one is Independent Election Commission. The Election Commission of India is an independent authority which is responsible for conducting elections in India. This election commission came into existence on 25th January 1950. The Election Commission of India consists of Chief Election Commissioner and two election commissioners who are usually retired IAS officers. Besides election commissioners, there are deputy election commissioners. They are further assisted by director general, principal secretaries and under secretaries. This election commission enjoys same kind of independence as judiciary enjoys in India. The election commissioner of India is appointed by the president, but once he is appointed, he works as an independent body and he is not answerable for his decisions to the president or the government of India. The election commission has following powers and it has following functions. Election commission takes decisions on every aspect of conducting elections and controls elections from the announcement of elections to the declaration of results. It implements code of conduct and punishes any candidate or party that violates the code of conduct. During election period, the election commission can order the government to follow certain guidelines so that it can prevent the use or misuse of government powers to enhance the chances of winning the election. So during elections, the election commission can even order the government. When a government officer is on an election duty, then he works under the control of the election commission and not under the government. So, the first step through which democratic elections are ensured in India is by establishing an independent election commission. Next step to check whether the elections are held in a democratic way or not is to see whether people participate in elections with enthusiasm or not. Popular participation in elections is necessary. In last 50 years, the turnout of the people in during voting has actually remained stable or actually has gone up. In some other countries, in the western countries, it has declined, but in India it has either remained stable or has gone up. In India, the poor, illiterate and underprivileged section of the people take larger participation in elections in voting as compared to the rich and privileged section of the society. The common people of India attach a lot of importance to elections. They think that through elections they can bring pressure on the political parties to adopt policies that are in favor of the common people. In India, the interest of the voters in election related activities over the last few years has actually increased. The third step to ensure free and fair elections is that whatever the election outcome is, it is accepted, it is fully accepted. The ruling parties and there are certain things which shows that actually the outcome of election is accepted in India. The ruling parties routinely rules elections in India both at the national and state level. It is not necessary that once a party becomes a ruling party, it is winning elections again and again. In India, about half of the MLAs and MPs lose elections when next elections are held. Except few disputes, every time, whatever the election outcome is, it is usually accepted by the political parties and the candidates as people's verdict. So, the acceptance of election outcome is very necessary for an election to be held in a democratic way. And in India it is accepted. Now the last topic in this chapter is challenges to free and fair elections. What are the challenges that are faced during elections? The candidates and the parties who have a lot of money may not be sure of their victory in elections, but they use their money power which smaller parties and independent candidates lack, and through this money power at times they even win elections. In some parts of the countries, candidates with criminal connection have been able to push other candidates out of the electoral race. Some families tend to dominate political parties. Tickets are distributed to the relatives of these families, and tickets are not distributed on the basis of who is more eligible to become a candidate. And even sometimes elections offer little choice to the citizens because majority of the parties are quite similar. They have almost same kind of policies. When they are in government, they follow same kind of practices. So at times elections offer very little choice to the citizens. So this is all that we have to study in this chapter. Here the chapter ends. Thank you.